and it is 7:10 p.m. Apologize for starting late tonight. We had a workshop that ran over. The first item on the agenda is the roll call. If I can have someone call roll.
Commissioner Burks,
Present.
Vice Mayor Crutcher,
Present.
Commissioner Lucas,
Present.
Commissioner Rainey,
Present.
Mayor Carroll.
Present.
You have a quorum, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the prayer and pledge. If you'll please stand with me. And please bow. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing this group of people to come together and do the business of the city and serve the citizens. Please guide us and direct us as we move forward. Please be with all those that are serving our country as the holidays come near and they're not with their loved ones. We lift them up to you. Please let everybody have safe travels. Guide us and direct us. In Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Third item is approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Got a first and second. Any additions? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Fourth item on the agenda is the public hearing. Item 11A.
Second and final reading of ordinance 2017-26, an ordinance to amend the City of Fairview zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 47, parcel 66, 33.8 acres located at 7380 through 7402 Cumberland Drive from a RS40 low-density residential zoning district to a R20 medium-density zoning district.
Okay. Do we have anybody here to speak on the matter? You're going to be welcome to come up. Yes, Mrs. Brooks.
Wait a minute, is your mic on?
Do I have to turn it on?
No, I think it's
Okay.
You just have to get closer to it.
He just waved his finger at it and it got scared. As far as I know, there's never been a comprehensive traffic study done for Cumberland Drive. And I know it should have been done with Cumberland Estates. And this is a much smaller division, but it's still the same problem. We don't have any way to move traffic. And until we get a comprehensive road plan, I don't think we should continue to approve subdivisions, no matter how much we need the homes. If you can't move the people around, it's impossible to do. Thanks.
okay. Thank you. And anybody else want to speak?
Hi, I'm McCormick Grove, 7106 Pleasant Grove Court. Same concern, obviously, the traffic. We live on that road now. It's a nightmare to even use the corner of 100 in Cumberland. There's no shoulder on Cumberland. They put sidewalks in. Can't drive on a sidewalk. Also, we've been here for about 4 years and understand that there's actually no water supply or way to move sewage. So if you're going to create density, what are you going to do with what density the residue from the density as well? So I agree. It'd be nice to see a project plan. It'd be nice to see some due diligence that's been done to assure us that our home values aren't going to take a hit by just, increasing the density.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to come up and speak?
Jason Cannon. We're 7120 Pleasant Grove Court, McCormick Grove as well. Again, I'd like to echo the sentiments of the first two people that spoke. Traffic is a huge concern. School zone is already an issue in the mornings. Getting out on 100, the part-time one-way is kind of a cluster in the mornings and afternoons for folks that live there. With the school entrances being moved over there, adding an additional 60 houses or whatever we're looking at here, it's going to continue to increase that problem. Secondly, the sewage is also an issue. My understanding is it's not actually going to be on a sewer, it's going to be a septic step type system. I do have some concern on property values for that as far as smells or anything else kind of drifting over to the rest of the folks in our neighborhood. But that's about all I've got.
Thank you. Okay, is anybody else wishing to speak? We did get an email. Can I ask you, Vice Mayor, to, in the request, she asked that we read that into the minutes. And so if you don't mind reading it.
This is a letter dated 11/16/2017 from William and Carrie Almond, ALMOND. It says, to the City Council and Planners, thank you for the recent certified letter regarding the proposed zoning change to 7380 through 7402 Cumberland Drive. We are regretfully unable to attend this meeting due to work obligations. We welcome the opportunity to express our thoughts via this letter. We understand that the proposed change is from RS40 to RS20. We would like more information regarding the RS20 designation and what that means as far as how many houses can be put on a certain lot size. We were caught off guard when we received the letter and have questions about how the City of Fairview is growing. We would also like the opportunity to discuss this with our neighbors and get a list of what properties are considered adjacent. Our first concern is that there is already a development, Cumberland Estates, in the beginning stages at the property directly next to 7402 Cumberland. There is quite a bit of trade and construction traffic because of that development. We have personally watched children walk down the street after school and must stand two in the ditch to avoid the trucks that are going well over the posted speed of 30 miles per hour. Our second concern is that the property in question is small, 33 acres, and we are not sure how many homes are being proposed on this lot. What will this do to property values in the neighborhood? What type, size, acreage are the homes being proposed? We ourselves have slightly over 3 acres. We would also be granted an ordinance variation to build additional homes on our lot. Would we also be granted an ordinance variation to build additional homes on our lot? Our third concern is regarding the creek that runs behind our property and into 7380 from McCormick Grove. Any alteration to that creek could unduly cause our property to flood. We would like to understand that the owner and the City of Fairview have studied and understand any effects the landscape changes might have to that creek. While we understand and welcome growth of the City of Fairview, we would like Fairview to respect our neighborhood and give us the opportunity to grow at an organic rate. Perhaps we could suggest tabling this ordinance until next year and allow us to embrace Cumberland Estates and understand what the addition of those homes means to our neighborhood before adding homes on 7380 through 7402 Cumberland. At this time, we respectfully request that this ordinance variation 2017-26 be denied and revisited at a later date. Thank you for your time, William and Carrie Almond.
Thank you. Okay, any other? Did you want to say something? Oh, okay, sorry. I just saw movement, sorry. Didn't want to miss you. Okay, I'll go ahead and move on. We'll close the part of the public hearing. Item 5 is the citizen comments. We have one tonight, Mayor, Mr. Taylor, Mr. Kenneth Taylor. Okay, and Mr. Kenneth Taylor, where did
Mr. Taylor actually had approached me prior to the meeting and had discussed the possibility of having his annexation request put back on the agenda. I advised him that I would speak to the administration and to the administration about about whether or not that was a possibility in the future. I assume that's what he was planning on discussing with the board, but he has left, so.
Okay. Item 6, awards and recognition. City staff have none tonight. And 7, public announcements. Okay, can we get an announcement maybe on the Christmas parade? I know the Chambers is December 2nd. I guess contact the Chamber if you want to participate in the parade. Sure, we have other stuff. But since that's before the next meeting, I guess anything after that could wait. But look for post. I know it's the first Saturday in December. And then we have the tree lighting. Ms. Johnson, do you have anything, knowledge on the tree lighting this year? It will just be immediately following the parade. Okay. Are we going to have groups here, like singing and? Okay. Okay. Staff comments? Let me guess, no staff comments. Okay. Approval of the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we got a first and second. And then this would actually be the consent agenda. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 11, old business, second and final reading of ordinance 2017-26.
An ordinance to amend the City of Fairview zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 47, parcel 66, 33.8 acres located at 7380 through 7402 Cumberland Drive from a RS40 low-density residential zoning district to an R20 medium-density zoning district. Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a first and second. Any discussion?
Mayor,
Yes.
I think after our discussion at the workshop tonight and what the Almonds point out in their letter, I have some real concerns about what the landscaping might do to the water, what's going to happen. We already see what's going on in some of the subdivisions. We don't really know, and she's right, we haven't even embraced those other houses first. So would it not be better to wait?
I think actually that's a valid point, just due to not knowing the impact. I did want to make a comment. There has been a traffic study completed. We did require in the first stages, and we asked in the Planning Commission to take consideration of both subdivisions. So I don't recall offhand what the traffic study in this particular scenario said, but it was whatever recommendations, it was approved on according to the study,
Is the
and they
traffic,
agreed to do it.
I'm sorry, is the traffic study in our packet?
I don't think so. I just remember this from the Planning Commission.
And I believe that traffic study was based upon, I think it was 70-something homes also, when it came through the first time, not with the reduced number. So, just FYI.
But the
Yeah.
result?
I'm trying to remember, I believe it was, turning lane, was it, I believe, Mr. Collins, do you remember if it required a turning lane?
Does not.
It did not require one coming in? Okay, I couldn't remember.
Yes.
Mayor, thank you. Just a couple of thoughts. One, I appreciate everyone that spoke at the public hearing. I appreciate the almonds sending in a letter. These rezoning and annexation requests are always difficult because there's always going to be a group of individuals that are opposed to them. I mean, it's one of the tougher decisions that we make because there is a balance between someone wanting to be able to use property that they own versus how that might affect the neighbors surrounding that property and the city as a whole. The thing about this particular request, and some of you may recall and some may not, when this originally came before the board, this came at a request of getting a PUD designation to where they were going to be able to build the additional houses that Commissioner Burks just talked about. So the lots, or the number of lots have actually decreased from the time that it initially came before the board, and now they are asking for an R20 conventional zoning designation, which would require that each of these homes be placed on 20,000 square foot lots. So you don't have the smaller lot sizes that you would see in Cumberland Estates, because Cumberland Estates is a PUD. I live in a house just down the street from where I grew up, and when that row of houses was built and they're on acre lots, I guarantee you there were people that said, I really don't want that row of houses built there. And maybe I felt that way at the time because I never knew that I was going to live in one of those houses. But it just so happens that I ended up buying one. I guarantee you when McCormick Grove was built, there were a group of people on Cumberland Drive that said, I really don't want McCormick Grove to be built. McCormick Grove is one of the nicer subdivisions that we have in the city. But there was somebody that was opposed to McCormick Grove. Same for Castleberry Farms, same for every other subdivision that has been built in this city. I completely understand that we have to look at growth and we have to look at the infrastructure and we have to decide, okay, can what we have in place support this development? And we require the developer to go through a process to prove to the city that we can. One of those requests was the traffic study. And every bit of that was presented to a body, a legislative body that was appointed by this board, being the Planning Commission, of 9 people. And they discussed that at great length. And then that board voted, it appears that there was only 1 nay vote, so almost unanimously to recommend this rezoning request. It's really difficult for me when a body that is appointed by this board makes that type of recommendation, barring something completely, them doing something that just absolutely, completely makes no sense, to go against that body. That's what they're there for. They're there to consider that. And I understand that we are the ultimate arbiter, I guess, of annexations and rezonings. I understand everyone's concern. I do, and these are difficult decisions because they're never popular votes, ever. But this is a traditional, conventional rezoning request to an R20, a designation that exists. So one of the things that I think the board has to consider is, okay, did they make a proper application? Did they go through the proper process and procedure to ask for the property to be rezoned? Does the property, the zoning designation that they're requesting, is it consistent with the land use map? Those are the questions that I think this board has to consider when we get one of these requests. And I really think we're limited to those types of limited to considering those types of things. So from my perspective, yes, I agree with everything that I hear. We want to make sure that we grow, and we grow in a smart way, and that we can handle the traffic and those types of things. But when we have engineers that have done traffic studies that say the road can support this particular subdivision, then who am I to say that it can't? You know, we have to rely as a board on the professionals that have actually looked at this, the engineers that were hired and that opined that the road didn't need any significant changes. So, again, I just wanted to be clear, and I hope that answers some questions. The water, the runoff, we talked about that at great length earlier in our workshop. Again, that's something that was considered as part of this development. Somebody has done calculations, not somebody, an engineer, has had to do calculations to make sure that the runoff can be supported when it flows off into the creek that Ms. Almond and Mr. Almond are referencing in their letter. So, again, we have to rely and give deference to the individuals that have considered this before this board. So I just wanted to make that clear. I don't know if that answered anybody's questions, and I'm quite certain that it didn't necessarily ease the homeowners next door's mind. I'm certain of that, and I appreciate that. But I just wanted to share that.
Yeah, one of the things in the planning commission process was to make sure, because it did back up to McCormick Grove, basically to make sure it was the same type house. So, you know, with them being half acres and requiring such the amounts of bricks, and that was all important because it was going to back up, and those questions were asked. I know there's still a lot of concern about a step system, but believe it or not, it's the way the state's going. It's the recommendation from, you know, TDAC is, in Dixon Water, anything over 50 homes in a subdivision will require that. And I know there's still a lot of concerns out there, just what is this gonna look like and what is this gonna be? But this is kind of the way of the future. It's not just us that they're doing, it's just not Fairview. This is, you know, a TDAC approved system. And then Dixon Water takes it over. They run it and maintain it. The issue and fear of smells, you know, is a valid one. I think I asked those questions when I first, you know, started hearing the talk of this is how it was going to be. Visit some sites. It's just not there. Maybe this has been around since the 70s. Maybe in earlier days there's a lot more, but you know, the progress along the way, I don't think the fear is there. The guidelines, you know, Dixon Water used the same ones as Williamson County does. So I think some of those issues, they're valid concerns, but I do think that, you know, I feel comfortable now with the system, and that's not as scary to me as probably it was, you know, 5 years ago.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
Do we have a representative tonight for this project? Okay. If you'd step up, please. Thank you. And your name, sir?
Richard Howes with SEC.
Thank you. I have a couple questions. We had a nice workshop earlier where we're dealing with some water issues in some of these subdivisions that we have. When you put forth your stormwater plan, did you take into consideration the water coming from Cumberland Estates as well as the water that could come from Cumberland Grove? Or did you just consider what would be created by that on-site and that alone?
We take into account what comes from off-site as well as what is on-site. We have to make sure we pass their water through us as well as what we generate.
Okay. and the calculations y'all did, do you believe it's sufficient at this time that you will be able to capture and retain all the water that your site creates?
Yes, sir.
And if it doesn't, are y'all gonna be responsible for that?
If it
Or
does
the
not.
developer?
The developer will be responsible for remediating the issue if it's not built the way it's supposed to be.
I can't necessarily tell from the map, but I'm somewhat familiar with this property. The lots that would be adjacent to this development that are in McCormick Grove, if I'm not mistaken, those are actually uphill.
Yes, sir.
Is that right?
The ones there on Pleasant Grove are actually lower. They're below this property.
Oh, they're below.
Yes.
Is that, so where would the water, and those lines, I'm sure, are indicative of that. I don't know how to read that, but where is the water coming from McCormick Grove? Where is it flowing? The back of those houses, where is it going to?
There is a stream down the lower detention pond by the cul-de-sac. There is a stream that runs right through there.
So
that
everything would be,
essentially runs the property line up back behind, what is that lot? 30-something, I believe, or 20, right there, that below by the cul-de-sac. There's a stream that runs right through there.
and from the, at least on the side that, or the part of the development that is touching the adjacent lots to McCormick Grove, everything is flowing down toward that detention pond and that stream.
That
know they moved
detention
it on
pond
us.
right there, yes. The
Yeah.
detention pond that's right there by the multi-use field will be above the stream and above
Mm-hmm.
the houses there.
Okay.
How deep is that detention pond?
I've got rough numbers on it. I won't say it's 6-7 feet.
And I know we may have talked about this before, either here or when it was at the planning commission. I might have heard the conversation there, but is there any buffer at all between the back of this development and McCormick Grove?
Not to my knowledge, this is a standard
Okay.
traditional subdivision. Buffers were not required.
I do believe we were told at the planning commission that there would be a tree buffer. And if that's not the case, was it when it was a PUD and then they came back and we didn't require, do you recall, Commissioner Burks?
I don't remember at the moment. Does the city planner have an answer, maybe?
They indicated they were going to leave it as natural and undisturbed as possible, which would essentially create a buffer.
And there was a lot of trees there, is that correct? Is that how it went? But there's nothing in the plan
We
that
have-
would require them to do that?
Again, this is just the rezoning, so
yeah.
it has to go back to the planning commission 3 times for conceptual plan, preliminary, and final plat.
Well, and that's a good point, because sometimes when you have someone come in and ask for a rezoning, you don't necessarily know what the plan is. I mean, so it's actually advantageous in this setting, at least, that we do have a plan to look at. This may not end up being the final plan, but it's being rezoned in a way that they're required to build on 20,000 square foot lots. So certainly there couldn't be any more homes added necessarily. So that is really kind of puts you in a better position from a rezoning perspective when you do know what the plan is. We don't always get that.
Well, and I think it's important they kept a lot of the same things of when it was even a PUD, some of the things that was asked of them, they incorporated it into this subdivision, which I appreciated because it was already going to be concerns, just for the record. Yes.
I look at this a little different, I think, than most up here. I don't just look at, did they meet the requirements of the city and everything like that. I'm looking at, is it the best thing for the city? And not only is it the best thing for the city, is it the best thing for the city today? I did not hear one citizen say they were against this. What I actually heard was they're against it today, because they don't know the impact. I think since I've been here, even when I was running, that was one of the things that I said. I want to know what the impact is going to be 5 years from now on this particular, by doing this, by approving these rezoning requests, these annexations. What is that going to look like 5 years from now? And my opinion is that, do I think it's a nice subdivision? Are we going to need the houses? Absolutely. Do I think the timing is right? I don't know that I do. I don't think at this time I feel comfortable saying this is in the best interest of the city of Fairview today. And that's just, that's my opinion on it. Do I think it's a nice subdivision? It would be great. I do, but I don't know what the impact, fully know what the impact would be down the road. We look at the water things that we were talking about today. People far smarter than me looked at some of that and approved it, yet we still had water issues. So I have a little hesitation. I understand I am not a traffic engineer. I don't study traffic. I get that. But I don't know how anyone could look at adding this many houses to Cumberland Road and not say that there is going to be a pretty drastic impact on that road.
I agree with you. I feel like that one of the most interesting things is we sat with TDOT and they said we didn't need a light at Cumberland. The traffic study showed that we didn't need a light. And so, but we feel it every day when we drive down Highway 100, and if you're trying to get out of Cumberland or go to the high school, where most average citizens and myself, which I include myself in that, would say we have a traffic problem on Cumberland. So I kind of get it, and I'm torn. I see the logic of the neighborhood, but we are in the process already of trying to fix the problem. The city manager, as far as Cumberland, presented something not long ago, options. So, I mean, to say that we're not considering it is kind of, I don't know if that's totally true for me, because I'm considering it. It's in our conversations. We talk about it. We met with TDOT. So, but will it happen quick enough? Will it happen by the time the houses are built? And the houses are already in Cumberland Estates going up so quickly. So I don't know. I mean, it's definitely something to consider.
Mayor, I know that I know this, and I should remember this, but how many houses are being built in Cumberland Estates?
And it's 200 and
260.
260.
260?
260.
So assuming that everybody there has 2 cars at least, unless they have teenagers and they have 3 or 4 cars.
Yeah.
And it's already bad.
I believe there's also another subdivision across the street that's a previously approved subdivision that is, I think they came forward, Planning Commission this past Tuesday, and doing their additional plat for new homes. So it's not just this one. It's not just Cumberland Estates. It's also Whispering Woods,
13, right?
It's not many, yeah.
additional. But it's the whole total. I mean, if we look at this with Cumberland Estates only, that's about 600 homes. 608, I think, would be the number, roughly. 2 to 3 cars per household, that's what we're adding to this road, to this intersection, every morning, every afternoon.
And I
It's
think,
actually like 303. If it's 220, then was this one 70, right?
No, this is 40.
45, okay.
45.
And then 13. Not to say that, you know, that isn't a lot, 200 and.
and I really think that we saw when Chester Road was closed, I mean, you know, every day when I came home, I thought there was a wreck on 100 Highway. And that's just the people who are already here, trying to get into that area.
Did you have anything?
Just a couple of things. I was just looking at Real Tracks just because I'm curious about the inventory of houses in Fairview, and I'll tell you, there's not many houses. There's three pages of listing, each with 20 pages or 20 homes on the page. The cheapest house that's available in Fairview right now is $189,000, and I have no idea where that house is or what you get for $189,000. But do you have any idea what the price point on these houses will be?
Not off the top of my head.
I think they said in the 400 range.
That's probably about right.
There's 43 houses listed in 37062. I don't know how many of those are in the city out of the 43. Some are not, I can tell you, just based off the price of them. The bulk of those houses are over $300,000. I know that they said that these homes, I think I recall the conversation, and because it was changing from a PUD to a conventional subdivision, the price and the quality of these homes was going to go up to offset the lots that were lost. So you're
Right.
going to be getting a good product in this subdivision. It's not going to be, from my understanding, what may be, I think it'll be even better product than what's being built in Cumberland Estates, as I understand it. You know, I completely get everybody's point. I know I don't want to keep saying, I mean, that may not make anybody feel any better, and I get that. But, you know, Commissioner Lucas has a point. People are not, they don't want it now, but I can tell you from experience of seeing some of these things, somebody's not going to want it now, somebody's not going to want it next year, somebody's not going to want it 5 years from now, somebody's not going to want it 10 years from now, somebody's not ever going to want it, ever. There are some people that think we should build 0 houses in the city of Fairview going forward, that we should close the gate, nobody else come, we're done, Fairview's closed. And a city that is not growing is a city that is dying. That's just a fact. That's where we are. So we've got to decide. I get everybody's concern, but I don't know how we can replace the opinions of individuals who are trained to make the calculations required for road capacity and water runoff. I don't know how we can replace our opinions with those individuals' opinions. I'm certainly not qualified to do it. I don't have that training. I'm trained as an attorney. I don't know anything about water runoff. I don't know anything about road congestion and how that works or how they do those calculations. But I know those individuals went to school for it, and I know those individuals have to sign their name and put their stamp of approval on those studies. So again, I just think that's where we are as a city. We're in the middle of a situation where we have a low inventory of houses. We're in a period to grow, and we can either decide as a board that we want to completely stunt that growth and it just not happen at all, or we can move forward as a city and grow. That's where we are. We're at a crossroads, in my opinion. And if we continue to deny these projects that are good projects that are coming down the pike just because we want to wait 4 years, 5 years, 6 years to figure out if somebody's going to like it then, we're not growing, we're dying.
Okay.
If I could real quick, and I understand me and Vice Mayor are on two different pages on this thing. I think that the end goal is the same, just how we get there is different. And I understand what he's saying. Like I said, I'm not a traffic engineer. I don't know anything about watershed. I get all that. I do disagree, however, that because we don't grow today, somehow that's going to be a problem. I think if we're smart about it, the growth is going to come. We know it is. I don't think anybody's going to argue that. I come back to, I want to be smart about this thing, and I don't know why we are in such a hurry. I feel like we are just pushing these things through, like somehow we're going to miss out on the next big thing if we don't get it through right away. And I just agree with the citizens. I think we step back just a little bit and slow down a little bit. I don't think by slowing down, we are going to just stop growth altogether in Fairview. And again, just my opinion, but I really just believe that we really need to slow down just a little bit. I think we're moving way too fast, and I don't think we're going to end up missing out.
I don't know exact number, but I don't know that we've approved many subdivisions in the last year. Not that was approved before y'all came in.
But they're there.
Yeah, you're right. I'm just saying we hadn't approved anything in a year. So very, little.
To my knowledge, the only thing that has been approved on this road is Cumberland Estates at this point. Mr. Toddy is in the process of going through the planning commission, and I'm not even sure, is that going to end up being a rezoning request? It doesn't have to be rezoned.
No.
So it's just going to go to the planning commission, and that's it. So the only thing that has been approved from a rezoning standpoint so far on this street would be Cumberland Estates. And I'll be honest, when that one came through, I really don't like how the process went down. I feel like that I had some questions that weren't completely answered about that particular subdivision because of it being a PUD and how that was handled from the Board of Commissioners or by the Board of Commissioners. But I feel like we've got a much better handle on things now in terms of what it means when something's coming as a PUD versus a conventional subdivision. I know we're not talking about a PUD in this setting, but I feel like we got a much better handle. We have a board that looks at these things, that makes all the considerations that we need to be making before we make these decisions. And I understand Commissioner Lucas's position, but I agree with the mayor. We really haven't approved that many subdivisions. The only subdivisions that I'm aware of that have been approved is there's one on Horn Tavern Road that's roughly 30 lots. There's one on Old Nashville Road that's roughly 30 lots. I don't know if we've approved any more than that.
That's all I can think of.
I don't know that we've approved more than a roughly 60 houses in the past year. Unless somebody can tell me different, I can't think of any.
Willow Crest is maybe 20 lots, but that
Okay.
wouldn't have come to you, I don't think. That was before I got here, but that's on Horn Tavern.
Well,
Yeah.
that's the one you were talking about, wasn't it? Or was it?
I think it was more than that, but
No, he's thinking of
Oh, yeah.
Pennock Place and then Pepper Tree Cove.
there's just not been that many it seems like we've had a lot come down the pike, but I don't think all of those have been approved. Now, I do take that back. There is the subdivision that's on 96 that's by the old city hall that has come now for I'm sorry, 100. And I don't remember how many lots that was.
They're
Audubon
40
Cove,
40
it's 47.
47. So we do. So there's at least 3.
And that was previously approved for 30, so,
But we didn't approve that
that
one.
was a
They
long,
had to
that's
go.
from 2007.
It was a modification.
Modification.
And we didn't, we didn't approve it. We went back to the original plan,
No, we added the additional lots.
did we?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the point is this:
Okay.
there's not been that many. It seems like there has, but there's not been that many. And as from what I can, ground has been broken on Cumberland Estates, I know. Ground has been broken on one of the subdivisions on Horn Tavern. I'm not aware of if there's any other that are under construction. There may be. I just can't think of where they are. But, and again, I get that it's balancing the citizens' concerns with the overall well-being and best interest of the city. And it's not so much that I think that Fairview's had a reputation for a long time, and even during my tenure, and maybe I'm part to blame for that early on, but of being sort of difficult to work with. I mean, I'll just be honest. And, you know, at some point, that gets out to developers that are willing to come in and put a good product in the city, build in the city, and invest in the city. Now, I get they're there to make a profit. I get all that. They're not in business to you know, do what necessarily we want. They're in the business to make money. That's why they do what they do. But at some point, you get that reputation, and I think you end up down the road maybe getting a product, an inferior product, and a developer maybe that you really don't want developing in your city just because of the reputation, because that's what ends up coming down the pike. So I know we can talk about this all night, and we may all just have to agree to disagree on how we get, you know, to where we want to go. But again, I just wanted to share those thoughts.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and go. Did you have something?
I did, Mayor. When this project came before us last time, it was almost 30 additional homes included. There was a lot of problems we had with it. It was a cul-de-sac with too many homes on it. There was no connector road between the two different sets, the bottom and the top, which has been corrected. There's not the small lots that were there with a PUD. These are half-acre lots. They're going to be $400,000 homes, probably in that price point, which means we're talking about four-side masonry at that price, I would assume. The amenities have been kept as far as the multi-purpose fields, the open space that they're not required to do. They could have, even under this, they could have put more homes in. They didn't do that. They've improved the product. I'm still concerned about the density in this area. Even though they've brought forth a better product. And I get it. We want to have developers come in that build a nice product, that make the area nicer, hopefully increase the value of the other homes there. That's what we want to see. And I think this is what this project is. But again, I'm still stuck on the additional density right there beside Cumberland Estates.
Okay. Yes.
Two sentences. I don't think anybody's arguing that it is going to be, they're going to be nice homes. They'll probably look beautiful. That's not my concern at all. My only concern still comes back to, is it right for Fairview today? And I don't think it is.
Mayor, just as a point of reference, there's a motion and a second on the floor
Mm-hmm.
that is either going to need to be withdrawn or take some action on.
Yeah.
I understand the discussion, but I think the discussion may be beyond the scope of your motion in a second. It's a procedural matter.
Yeah. Well, and at some point, I saw where this was going long, but the thing about it is, what point do you cut somebody off? I valued everybody's opinion.
Understand.
But I understand we spent a long time, and I don't know where we're going to get, and you're waiting for a vote. And so I just, if nobody has anything else different to say, we'll go ahead and call the vote.
Vice Mayor Crutcher,
Aye.
Commissioner Burks,
Nay.
Commissioner Lucas,
Nay.
Commissioner Rainey,
Nay.
Mayor Carroll?
Aye.
Motion fails, Mayor.
Okay, second and final reading an ordinance number 2017-27 relating to the speed limit.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, what I have before you tonight is obviously, second final reading of the speed limits. As you're aware, we've worked some time to make sure that we're updating our municipal code as it relates to the speed limits and the related resolution to identify the speed limits themselves, which will be considered momentarily. Nothing's changed in this ordinance from what you're provided previously. It simply outlines the process for the amendment of any speed limits that will be done by numbered resolution, and it is an enhancement to the school zones, and those have not changed since the ordinance was last proposed for you.
Okay? So do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, first and second, any discussion? Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Lucas,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Burks,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Crutcher,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Motion carries, Mayor. Thank you.
12, new business. A, resolution number 27-17.
A resolution of the City of Fairview, Tennessee, establishing speed limits within the corporate limits of the City of Fairview.
Yes, Mayor, members of the commission, what I have for you has not changed since it was included in your packet at our last meeting with the first distribution of the speed limit ordinance. As you're aware, we've discussed, the city, went back and did an inventory of all the streets within the city limits of the City of Fairview, audited those speed limits, and addressed a resolution that would provide for the proper posting of those speed limits. The ordinance that was just passed includes that speed limits be identified by resolution, numbered resolution. This is what you have. The passage of this tonight simply is a ratification of the speed limits you have in that resolution. If this passes tonight, we will go back, make sure that each one of the speed limits in the city are marked and posted as they should be pursuant to this. If that requires new signage, the movement of signs, or other indicators, we'll follow up with that to make sure that our infrastructure meets with the specified speed limits in the resolution.
Okay. Any,
I've
Motion
got-
to, I'm sorry.
I think there was there no motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
okay, first and second. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Sorry, I thought there had already been a motion on this item. Couple things. One, on the maximum speed limits on State Highway 96. I'm probably not going to be a very popular commissioner tonight. To me, the 50 miles per hour, when it goes from 50 miles per hour from Kingston Road to Lake Road, it really doesn't make a lot of sense. Let me tell you why. From coming in from the east side of town on Highway 100, if you come up Whippoorwill Hill, you immediately, when you get into the City of Fairview, it goes to 45 miles per hour. That area, in my mind, between the stretch between the top of Whippoorwill Hill and the 4 lanes is, to some extent, and some part of that initially, really right at the very beginning, is less congested than what the part of 96 is, particularly in light of the fact that there's an industrial park there. There's several other, I know there was something on the Planning Commission agenda on Tuesday night that talked about the possibility of some other commercial property, or there was a request to rezone commercial, I think, for another storage unit somewhere on that area, that stretch. The intersection there at Northwest Highway and Highway 96, is extremely dangerous, that intersection in particular. I know there was at least one casualty accident there in the past 2 years, for sure. Or fatality accident. So I would suggest that we amend that, the speed limit on 96 to just make it 45, completely all the way down through there. No, from the interstate, it's actually, I think it's,
45.
yeah, 45 all the way till you get to Clear Meadow Lane, which is where you're getting into the city center. So it would be 45, the entire stretch of 96. It would be 45 from the eastern entrance to the city till it changes at city center. And then I would suggest to do the same on the other side from 840. 840 is about to be a corridor that grows, or it should grow. I would suggest you just make it 45 till you get to city center, and then it becomes 35. You have two zones. Instead of changing from 45 to 50 to 45 to 35, it's just 45 till it turns 35. Do you follow me?
Can I back up one, just because I'm trying to make notes to make sure. Let's for 96
Yes.
first. Your amendment to the motion would be that the speed limit on Highway 96 be from the Dixon County line to Clear Meadows Lane, 45 miles an hour.
That's right.
Okay? And the proposal on Highway 100 would be,
That it be 45 coming in both directions until you get to where you've already got it changed into 35.
So almost from county line to county line. Almost. Top of
Okay.
the hill.
okay, I understand.
Do you with me? Are you with me?
I understand.
To me, it just makes no sense to have it change. And we've got 1, 2, 3, we got 4 speed zones on Highway 100 under this scenario. We've got a 50, a 45, a 40, and a 35.
So let me make sure I'm on Highway 100 and this correctly. From the Hickman County line proceeding into town, 45 miles per hour, until we get to the point between the high school and Cumberland Drive, which drops to 35 miles an hour because of that intersection. So your proposal is that it would remain 35 miles an hour from that spot through town?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got Walmart, you've got Taco Bell, you've got Pizza Hut, you've got Tractor Supply, you've got a ton of things.
No, I understand, I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm on a map.
Yeah,
So from the point 500 feet south or between Cumberland Drive and the high school, that will pick up to 35 miles an hour. And that 35 miles per hour would remain until you get to Old Nashville Road. So between Old Nashville and Cumberland effectively will be 35 miles an hour. And then 45 at Old Nashville headed back out.
that starts the 4, yeah, right where it
Yes,
starts the 4 line.
Correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's exactly right.
Understood. So is that's your amended motion?
That's my amended motion.
All
Yeah, I
right, sir.
wanted to talk it through before I actually,
No, thank you for that, because I understood.
Can you read it? Can you go through it again?
Yes. Is to read the amended motion. The amended motion is to pass the resolution as presented with the changes that the speed limit on Highway 96 be 45 miles per hour from the Dixon County line to Clear Meadows Lane. And the speed limit on Highway 100 be 45 miles per hour from Old Nashville Road to the city limits and from a point 500 feet south of Cumberland Drive to the Hickman County line. And the distance between the 500-foot point on Cumberland and Old Nashville Road be 35 miles per hour.
exactly right.
One question, in front of Flying J, is that 45 or 35 already? Is it 45?
45.
Okay, okay.
Did I get a second on that amended motion?
Second.
Okay, any other questions? Okay. If you'll do a roll call on the amendment, or amended motion.
Vice Mayor Crutcher,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucas,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Mr. Burks,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll make these adjustments to this resolution prior to its being signed by the mayor, and then we'll follow up with the signage as we had indicated that we would before. Thank you.
Okay. That will bring us to 12B, ordinance number 2717-28.
An ordinance to amend Title 12, Chapter 4, and Chapter 5 of the City of Fairview's Municipal Code as it pertains to the Residential Code and the Energy Code respectively.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
First and second, discussion. Any explanation by the city?
Mayor, the majority of this is cleanup from your previously adopted building codes. There's no substantial change to that. However, there is some adjustment to the residential side. We're just trying to bring those items up to code. There's nothing that would stand out. And we have our building inspector here. If we want to have any specific questions asked or have him highlight, we'll be glad to have him provide those for you.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call.
Commissioner Burks,
Aye.
Commissioner Rainey,
Aye.
Commissioner Lucas,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Crutcher,
Aye.
Mayor Carroll.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
12C, removal of Tim Mangrum from the Planning Commission. Commissioner Lucas?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think this motion is self-explanatory. I put a motion before the board to remove Mr. Mangrum from his Planning Commission seat.
Mr. Mangrum resigned this past Tuesday. He submitted a letter of resignation to the Planning Commission, so issue's moot at this point.
Okay. That would have been good information to have before tonight.
Yes.
Mayor, and if I may, I didn't realize that that wasn't common knowledge. I'd actually received a copy of that email as well, so I didn't realize that I didn't realize that we didn't all know that, so I apologize.
Yeah, it was announced in the Planning Commission meeting. So, which I guess was Tuesday night. Okay. Any other? I guess we'll move on. I'd like to thank Tim Mangrum for his service, though, while we're on the item. He spent many years dedicating his time to the city. 12D, ordinance requirement for silt fencing on all construction enforceable with a stop work order. Commissioner Burks.
Thank you, Mayor. I know we've all received a lot of complaints with the new construction about mud getting out on the roads, getting out in the ditches, which is washing through people's property. And the questions I have are this. Do we currently require silt fencing? Do we require gravel construction entrance? What are our current requirements so that everybody knows? If y'all could tell us on that, as well as how do we enforce it, and can we enforce it without an ordinance saying we specifically can?
Commissioner, let me address those there. Let me back up. Let me start the second. Currently, TDEC is the enforcement agency that does that. So any complaint that comes in results in a call to them. The discussions that we've had are changing that so that we enforce those locally. The proper step for that as we move forward would be, one, an amendment to the subdivision regulations that require that as a part of the construction. Second, to mirror that with an ordinance so that we would be able to enforce that within the city. currently we don't have an enforcement action that we can actually bring someone that has teeth to that for that item. So what the discussion has been is do this in an ordinance fashion so that we would be able to go and stop them. If they didn't stop them, we could either issue a stop work order or issue a citation in the event that that debris left its home, so to speak, and made its way somewhere else. So our current course of action is to notify the state. We don't have anything substantive that we can, as a city, enforce or an enforcement mechanism. So this process, if it were to be successful, and we certainly hope that it is, would be a requirement in the subdivision regulations that a builder, developer, whoever would be aware of, and if there's a violation of that, the city can enforce that either via stop work order, and that can be site-specific within the subdivision, or issue a citation in the event that it's just gross or egregious.
Okay. And I know part of the problem is, right now, all we can do is call TDEC. And I know we've done that. The problem is we get no response. And then there's nothing we can do. We just tell our citizens, sorry, we've tried. And that doesn't seem to be good enough, in my personal opinion. We need to do better. So I guess my question would be, how does the board feel about having the city draw up that ordinance so that we do have the ability as a city to locally enforce this? It shouldn't be on the neighbors to have to deal with mud washing out of these new construction sites. It needs to be dealt with by the developer. If you go to Franklin and you pull out on a road and there's mud everywhere, you're gonna have a problem real fast. Same in Brentwood and these other areas, we need to be able to do the same. So that's my suggestion. I'd like to hear comments from the board.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, it's if we can't enforce it now, and the only remedy is calling TDEC and waiting on a state agency to do something, then we need to fix it for sure.
And I guess I thought we already had that authority, so it is a good idea.
We'll move forward with the option of that. We'll take a version of that to the planning commission, certainly because it has to be included in those subdivision regulations. Then we'll bring a mirror copy to the board for consideration from ordinance form in an enforceable act.
Well, and I kind of agree with Commissioner Rainey, and I mean, I've seen them do stop work orders, so I don't know if we were working outside the scope, but it's been years ago. That's not something that's been done recently, so I'm a little surprised that A, we haven't been enforcing it, and B, we, have, I don't even know, have we called TDEC and tried to get them to?
Let me hit both those. Let me back up. On years past, the enforceability is you can go and ask them to do a stop work order, but you have no way to enforce that. So what we're wanting to do is enforce that with something that we can affect. In this case, a citation would be preferred, some manner that we can do that. Secondly, there have been calls to TDEC, but again, as been discussed, that's not an immediate remedy. In this case, we need an immediate remedy. So I think that the best course of action is to move forward in a way such that if someone were to challenge a stop work order issued by the city, which may or may not have been done in the past, but if there's a challenge to that stop work order, we need to have the ability to enforce it. So that's our goal locally, is to make sure we can do that.
Mayor?
Yes.
City planner, how many calls or emails have you sent into TDEC recently regarding these issues?
I've contacted TDEC and I didn't even get a response back. And that was just 2 weeks ago due to the issues on Horn Tavern, because I had received a number of calls and emails from citizens.
Okay, so 2 weeks and still waiting.
Still nothing, yes. And they had,
Okay.
the 3 or 4 or 5 people that had contacted me indicated that they had also contacted TDEC. And to my knowledge, there's been no site visit from TDEC and certainly no remedies.
And my understanding is typically they have a plan they have to put in place that's approved by TDEC.
That is correct. They have a stormwater pollution prevention plan that they have to send into TDEC for approval, and they receive a notice of construction permit, which they have to have visible at the job site.
Thank you.
Okay. So did you make a motion that you would like to do this? Sounds like you got some good feedback.
In this instance, there'd be no requirement for a motion. We'd simply bring that back to you as a motion item for the commission once we have the resolution or ordinance for you.
And it has to go to the planning commission first anyway.
It would have to go to the planning commission as part of the subdivision regulations, and again, we'll have a mirror ordinance for you, so they could be heard concurrently, so to speak, or at the same time.
Well, if we can just make sure that's done, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, item 13, city managers, items of for discussion.
Mayor, members of the commission, 3 items for you tonight. First off, just want to thank everyone for their involvement in the Veterans Day Parade. That was the first for us. That was a really nice event. It came off just the way we hoped that it would. It wasn't too big, wasn't too small. Staff worked really hard, chamber worked really hard, and certainly the members from the American Legion worked very hard to put that together. So just a big thank you to them. That was a nice event and went well. Secondly, we put out yesterday an RFQ for engineers or engineering firms to submit qualifications for the sidewalk project on Highway 100. We talked about that at the most recent work session. That is a state-funded project or federally funded through the state at a 95.5%, meaning that the city's match is only 5%, the federal funds are 95%. Once we get that information back, we'll move forward with a plan to at least get that project prepared for consideration to make sure we want to move forward and how we want to move forward. We are required by the state to put out that RFQ for the engineers, and we look forward to getting that back within the next 2 weeks. I believe it closes on the 29th, I'm sorry, the 30th of this month. And lastly, the comprehensive plan RFQ or request for qualifications will be posted tomorrow. We'll leave that up for 3 weeks. We look to get some information back. We'll post that on our website, the Observer, the APA website. As soon as we get those back, we'll move forward with a selection process, which will take a couple of weeks. And we should be relatively on schedule for the comprehensive plan to be completed during calendar year 2018 as previously stated goal for the city. That's all I have for you tonight.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. I do have one thing I wanted to point out regarding the ability to enforce. Obviously, you can't enforce it, but if you do have an ordinance where if someone is violating it, obviously you can send a stop work order, citation, and if need be, hopefully it's never needed, but you can seek emergency injunctive relief from a court. Without an ordinance, you would not be able to do those things, and with mud on a road, I don't know how dangerous that is. I'm not an expert in that, but that sounds dangerous. If you needed to enforce it quickly, that could be done. And so I definitely am with Commissioner Burks on pursuing that course.
Thank you. Okay, and that'll bring us to Commissioner Rainey
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
and Commissioner Lucas.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to echo the city manager's statement about the Veterans Day Parade. That was a great event. Thank you to all of those that worked behind the scenes to make that event so successful. Also, a lot of things going on in or around the city. We've got Thanksgiving next week. We were talking about some fitness things several weeks ago, and for those of you that are into fitness things, Grace Works down the road has a turkey trot on Thanksgiving morning. It's a 5K run held in Franklin. There'll probably be 4,000 runners, so if you're into running, that's going to be the place to be. Also, don't forget Shop with a Cop. That's going on. We've got Toys for Tots is around Fairview a lot this time of the year. And I'm forgetting one thing. I should have made notes. We'll just end it there. If I remember, I'll post it online or something. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Lucas. Oh, I'm sorry. Burks, I just heard you. Good job.
We look nothing alike. Don't
No.
confuse the beards. A couple of things. When we have these requests for rezonings or annexations, whatever they are, that come up, can we make sure that we have in our packets the picture of the development that's provided? I was having to go I can't read it or see well on the screen for whatever reason. I'm having to go back. Luckily, I'm on the planning commission, so I was able to find it on my phone from a previous email, but if we could get a hard copy of that included, I'd appreciate it, as well as any documentation such as a previous traffic study or any of those. If we could have those included also for the members that aren't on the planning commission that may not have had previous access to that. Additionally, Chief Humphreys, how close are we to getting to shopping a cop and the number we need? Okay. Everybody dig deep and give, please. And if you would add $500 from my community funds to that, please. Also, I know the chamber is having their annual Christmas dinner December 5th. Is the city plan on participating in that, Mr. Collins? I know we did last year.
Commissioner Burks, I've seen the email. I haven't responded to it. So if there are members who want to attend, we'll just let me know what we need to do. We'll get that to them.
I think it'd probably be a good idea to support the chamber in this. They do a lot for the city, so I think that the other members would probably agree with me that it's probably good to go to do that and support them. Other than that, everybody have a great, safe, happy Thanksgiving, and I hope you get to spend times with your family. Thank you.
Thank you. And Vice Mayor Crutcher.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. One, I appreciate the citizens that participated in the public hearing earlier. We don't always have that. Oftentimes we have public hearings and there's not a soul here to speak on any of these issues. So regardless if we agreed on the outcome or what the outcome should have been, I do appreciate you participating. I think that's important part of this process. And again, I know we always can't agree on everything, but I think every one of the five of us sitting here wants to do what's right for the city, and maybe our individual vision for what that is different, and that's what makes this a great process. Second, I know we have a really big football game tomorrow night at Pearl Cone. We're in the third round of the playoffs. Last week I was somewhat disappointed at the turnout for the second round at home, so I don't know that the turnout will necessarily be any better at Pearl Cone, but if you can make it, I encourage you to make it to that football game. I mean, I think we have a good opportunity this year to maybe even advance to the semifinal if we can. That game will be at home next week, and that'll be a big deal. I was going to say I don't think that's ever happened. I know that's never happened in the city of Fairview. So that's all I have tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. I just had a quick question. For the city manager, I probably should have done it in his section, but the paving of King Road, what's the process? Where are we at?
Mayor, we're just waiting on them to start. Everything's been approved. Nothing's changed. We're just waiting on them to mobilize their equipment and start. There's been no change in that.
Well, good. We're pretty far along then. We're ready. It's just,
Yeah, we've
yeah.
been ready. We're just waiting on them to mobilize with just their equipment.
okay, great. Okay, once again, I wanted to thank everybody that participated in the Veterans Parade. I loved it. It turned out great. I think just finally having something to recognize our citizens, our veterans, and an opportunity for the citizens to come out was a great opportunity. Being able to do it at the historical village was great. I mean, it was really a perfect venue for that. So wanted to say that. Also, I know the discussion kind of went long when it came to the rezoning, but I think anytime you have a public hearing and you have so many citizens come out and have real concerns, that as a Board of Commissioners, we have a real obligation to discuss it. And we have the opportunity to, in some way through discussion, provoke thought where it might change somebody's mind. So to shorten it or feel like that we are not doing our jobs or any favor for the citizens, I disagree. I think we should discuss every point until we can. But I know we have to have some kind of frame and stay in order, and I do appreciate you trying to keep us in order, but I just didn't know when to stop it because I valued everybody's opinion and still wasn't quite sure how I wanted to vote. So I do want to thank everybody that came out tonight, gave their opinions, and voiced their concerns. Yes.
Can I steal just 2 seconds of your time? I know I've had my turn. Do we know, I just saw an email, and I've had this email, I've got this several times about UVerse. Do we have any idea? I hear that it's owned, but there's no sound. Do we know if that's fixed or what the issue is with that?
We believe it was fixed until right now, so
Okay.
we'll follow up. Okay.
All right.
Yes, go ahead.
perfect.
You can take some too.
And can I steal 1 second because I remembered what my last thing was. That reminded me. I guess it was about 2 months ago, maybe, I brought up the Facebook Live and talked about that with the board. I have submitted a proposal to the city manager as well as the city attorney. And it's my understanding that hopefully they will have that cleaned up a little bit by next week, and we can submit that to the board, and hopefully we can put that on the agenda for the next meeting. So that will be another opportunity when we have these UVerse issues or Comcast issues. We have a third option to make sure as many citizens see these meetings as possible. So hopefully we'll have that by next meeting.
Okay, thank you. And then the last thing is, I will not be at the first meeting. I am having a little surgery. I did announce that at the meeting, long overdue hip surgery. And so I know I probably won't be at the first meeting, but plan to be back by the second. I hope everybody has a wonderful Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your family, and try to stay out of the crazy madness of Black Friday shopping. And then I do remember the shop local days during the long weekend. So if you have the chance, go out and stop in one of the Fairview businesses. I'm sure they would appreciate it. So if that's it, I can get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, all in favor?